I've been a car lover all my life. As a kid, I had Lamborghinis in my bedroom walls, and every Matchbox and Hot Wheels car was a chance to imagine maybe one day I'd own a Ferrari or a Lotus. Now, a number of years later, I've had the chance to own a few really great cars, and a few horrible ones too. But up until recently, I've been mostly a Sunday driver. I hadn't really pushed my cars to their limits, and I've had zero track time. And a couple of months ago, I had the opportunity to attend the M Performance Driving School by BMW. And that was an awesome day. Driving all of the BMW M cars, cars that I'd admired for years, around a closed track, pushing them to their limits and learning a ton about my driving skill. Now I'm hooked. The internet is full of great places to get reviews on cars. I don't need to be one more voice discussing horsepower figures or miles per gallon. My choices are more personal. And my dilemma is really centered around the decision of buying a track-only car or tracking my daily driver. But as I've looked around online, I haven't really found any channels sharing this same journey. So that's what I'll do. And I hope along the way I'll learn from those of you that have faced these same questions. And maybe I can help a few people that are just as crazy about cars as I am, as we all eat, sleep, and dream between the wheels. Now, before we go forward, let's take a look back. I'm a firm believer that the cars you've owned during your lifetime say a lot about who you are. Let's take a look at every car I've ever owned. The gems, the buckets, and a few in between. And maybe you'll notice a car or two that you've had seat time in. My first car. A proud moment in every young man's life. Fortunately, it was free. Unfortunately, it was a 1974 Buick Apollo. The good news, it had a small block V8 and only 24,000 original miles. I put sheepskins on the seats, hung fuzzy dice in the mirror, and regularly smoked the 235 width rear tires that I had installed. The bad news, it was a four-door, and oh so brown. A love tap from a drunk driver ended my Buick's life, and I moved on to my first sports car, a 1978 Datsun 280Z. Sleek, with 2 doors, 2 seats, 6 inline cylinders, but like my first car, a sickly, putrid shade of brown that can only be compared to the color of... What were you thinking? The 280 was a rust bucket, and since someone else wrecked my first car for me, I figured I would take care of this one myself. And next it was time for a 240Z. This car was trying to be red, but it was mostly just rust. But hey, I was in a sports car again. And then she came into my life. My 1974 Fiat 124 Spider. Italian and exotic, she'll be remembered as the first of my cars that I will forever regret selling. It leaked more fluids than an old diaper, and a project car wasn't going to work for a guy living off ramen noodles. The Fiat was traded in, and I finally bought a car younger than me, my 200SX. It was slower than a tax audit, and it was traded in for my first new car, the Honda Del Sol. Not just a sports car, it was a Targa top, and it was red. Not rusty red, red! Sadly, there's this thing that happens when you're a kid and take on a car payment that you can't handle. You don't get to keep the car. So my little red hot rod gone, my automotive karma had to be realigned, and the universe decided to teach me a lesson with the Oldsmobile Delta 88. Named thusly in reference to its overall length in feet, the perforated exhaust on this beige beauty meant I had to rig a rubber hose the length of her to carry the leaking exhaust gases out the back of the car. Karma is a bitch, and so was my Oldsmobile. My debt to society paid, I began my financial rehabilitation with a Pontiac Fiero and an interest rate right out of Goodfellas. From Fiero, my wandering continued through the desert of automotive experience with a Mitsubishi Diamante, the back-breaking Mercury Cougar, the capable Jeep Cherokee, head-turning Acura CL Type S, the milquetoast Ford Explorer, and then I became a Beamer man. Only my fourth new car, the BMW Z4, was a 2-seat convertible that reminded me how much I missed my Fiat Spider. Oh, me and my Batmobile. Life was good until... Did you know that when someone parks a gray car on the highway at night that it's hard to see? I found out what 60 to 0 in about 30 feet feels like, and the Z4 gave its life for mine. On to the Infiniti M35, then a Mini, the sublime Volvo S60 R, the quirky Land Rover LR2, another Ford Explorer, and since twice is nice, the Mark II BMW Z4. The second winner of the I Wish I Had Never Gotten Rid of This Car award. These days, I'm fortunate to have a gorgeous Range Rover Sport sitting in the garage as one of 2 cars in my current stable. And that brings us to today. My current daily driver is the Mercedes C450 AMG. It's a great compromise between daily driver comfort and performance. But it is a compromise, and that's the reason for this program. So now, as I look forward to the decisions that I have to make, at the risk of being banned in 32 states and getting a little too sexy for minors, I need to introduce to you the awe-inspiring, the riveting decision chart. It's time for to buy or not to buy a track car, or to buy a track car and have another car for daily driving, or to buy a daily driving car which is also a track car, or to track the current car which is my daily driver. What a dilemma. Initially, I face a binary choice. Buy a dedicated track car to live out my automotive fantasies or track my daily driver. From there, things get a little more complicated. Let's assume I decide to go whole hog and buy a track car. Do I get a beater? Something cheap that I can learn with? Or will my ego win out and force me to buy something that'll turn heads and maybe be too powerful and kill me as I spin it into a wall when I drive it beyond my childlike driving skill? To answer these questions, lists are in order. On our next episode, I'll begin to share my wish list for both the budget route and the enviable sweet ride path. Before any of that can happen, though, I've got to explore if the daily driver route can satisfy my vehicular endorphin rush. This path has forks in it, too. Should I track my current car, getting double duty out of my Jekyll and Hyde sports sedan, or is it time for me to look for the next car that I'll be registering at the good old DMV? If I go for the new car route, we've got more lists to make. But first, before I visit any more online car configurators, we've got to put the C450 through its paces and see how she handles on the track. Thanks for watching the first episode of my further descent into automotive insanity. Join me next time on Between the Wheels, where I take the Mercedes C450 AMG to the world-famous Virginia International Raceway. I'll drive it around the challenging full course, testing the limits of my noobness and trying to determine if one sports sedan can satisfy all of my needs for the road and the track. If you've got suggestions about cars I should be looking at, questions, or you just like pudding, comment and subscribe below. And that way I'll know I'm not the only nut who spends this much time thinking about cars. See you next time.